Hello.
Hi.
Hi.
We're with the House of Hope, and I am Michelle Smelser. This is Randy Brown. He's our executive director, and this is Donna Smedley, and she's our treasurer. Are you all familiar with the House of Hope? You are?
Absolutely.
Okay, good.
Yeah. Are you guys still on Warren Avenue, correct?
Yes.
Yes.
We're working very hard to try to move off of Warren Avenue so far.
Had any luck yet?
Been challenging. We're trying. We've got a meeting tomorrow. Hopefully we'll make some headway with that. But so that's our main focus right now is to move, and that's getting into an area that's friendly to us.
Obviously, I remember on the initial facility location, it's always the struggle is find something that fits with the community, but it's also convenient for your folks,
Right.
your clients, to be able to get to what they need to get to, because not all of them, they don't have transportation.
Most of them don't have transportation.
So you either need to be able to get on the bus or have easy access to shopping or groceries or basic stuff. So.
Right.
Now, your organization is only for men, correct? Or-
That's correct.
Yeah, and so there is no homeless shelter in Front Row for women, is there?
No, not currently. I mean, that's something down the road that, hopefully if we will or somebody.
Well, there was a
will do.
woman they found out on the north side who was dead, and she was homeless and living in the woods out there this summer. And
Yes, I was
Michelle
familiar with her.
works at DSS.
Yeah, I know her.
And Michelle y'all had contact.
Oh yeah, I had contact with her.
Yeah.
And it.
I'd buy her
She-
food when she was at Roy Rogers.
Yeah.
That's where she hung out. Yeah. Anyway. Yep. So I just didn't realize there wasn't a woman's shelter and a female version, but
Right.
There
yeah.
was at one time, but
Yeah, so it's
something-
been years now that's.
The old Frank's building on Main Street.
Yeah.
And that was kind of, you had.
Well, that was the pre-Phoenix project.
That's correct.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
So, but we have a whole program. It's more of we don't even call it a shelter. It's a program for men who they're not drinking, they're not doing drugs. They want to move forward in their lives and get out and get their own place. And so they work a program. And, we do breathalyzers every night. And they have to be committed to it. Otherwise they can't stay. And as long as they're moving forward, then we're there for them. They save their money. They're put on a budget. They pay off fines. Some of them have fines or back child support or whatever, so they do that. And then they save their money so they can move out. And Randy, he has a whole life management program mapped out for them, and they go through it. He meets with all of them, and they're most of them work. They're not there during the day, and they work, and then they come in the evenings. And then the ones that work at night sleep during the day.
Do they all have their own transportation?
No.
You take them to who takes them to work, or they get somebody to come get them?
They find their own whether it's through the trolley or
Okay.
or whatever. They get their own transportation. There's only a couple guys there now that have cars, and sometimes they drive each other. The ones that have a car
Right.
will drive somebody else.
So they're not necessarily homeless. There are people that are working that are without a home,
Right.
kind of?
Well, they're homeless, but they are. For whatever reason, they've come to this point where they can't afford to get into an apartment or sustain it. So, the House of Hope helps them get to that point because, like I said, a lot of them have back child support that they're paying on or court fines that they're paying on, and they as long as they're working, they pay them off, save their money. So they could be with us for like 9 months or
Okay.
something like that. So as long as we're making progress.
Success rate, Donna?
Yeah.
How many people run through the system or through the program
It's
that
around
you could call
60-40.
successful? Okay.
And we try very hard to treat them with dignity. The minute they walk in, they're a human being that has value. And with the structure that we have right now, we've tried to keep it as clean. If you go in there, it is as clean as you'll find. We have chores. It is a clean environment. But we want them to have a dignified environment. 11 by 11 room with 4 men in it is not a dignified place to live. But they are very appreciative. We try to have all their resources. I mean, the food is provided, lawn detergent is provided, so they don't have to be paid. We won't want them having a lot of expenses, so we want them saving. So we watch over their savings. My goal is 5 weeks and for them to get to work. When they get to 5 weeks, pressure begins to be placed, not mean, very, very merciful pressure. We want them progressing. We'll work with people that come out of jails. We'll work with people even with disabilities. Even we'll work with someone that's on retirement, as long as they can save money toward independent living. I have a guy that's in there that's 72 years old, retired, has some health problems. If he will save $400 a month, the first month he had to go out between 9 and 4. If you will have $400 at the end, I will let you stay in the house and during the day, not have to go out. So every month he has to. So there's always progress. There's always, and then the life coaching is very deliberate. Dignity is also a part of the conversation. Every man is treated in a way that he can handle a dignified conversation on life management. And every time I treat them that way, they respond to it. If you treat them like they're something less, we don't do that. I treat them like they're a colleague. It doesn't matter. I mean, I have to have different types of conversations with certain men. I can't talk to them the same way, but I honor them with critical and vital conversations that are needed for life management. And we fight for their future. They have a savings goal. As soon as they're working, we do a financial, and I have some documents here I could have had for you if you were interested. But we do their financials and we come up with a savings goal. We have 8 values. I have different environments, reflective and creative environment, different things that we go through. But we have goal commitments. We try to get them to look at their life, and I have worksheets and various ways to walk through a process of getting a vision. I have illustrative ideas on how to help them understand the environment, the reflective environment, and what that looks like. And so it's a deliberate effort at walking them through a process of coming to an understanding of what managing a life is like, and how to do that in 8 value categories. And so we work hard at really, at the end of their 6 months, usually 6 months off, $3,000 in the bank, they're secure with $3,000. They can get a down payment on the apartment and the first month's rent. And almost everyone, when they go out, they have nothing more than what a bag. So imagine going into an apartment, no broom, no toilet paper, nothing. They have nothing. So they're starting from scratch, and so we try to get them prepared for that. Because every one of them has been through some kind of crisis. 30 out of 53 last year has alcohol issues. Some of them that are fighting for a new life. They don't want the alcohol, and many successes in that. There's been some that have fallen back into it. You're going to have that, but it's a fight for their good, and we believe in their good. They are, and I've taken every single man out for a cup of coffee. My first time, when you take them, I take them out to the coffee shop to get away to hear the story, and every single one of them, I walk away feeling like they could be a friend. I never thought that would be homeless. A lot of people misunderstand homelessness. Homelessmen. They have been through a bad spot, and there's a few that are really have more issues. Most of them are just people like you that cannot get back on their feet without help, and they need somebody like us that care. And our board cares. I care. We went to 2 assistants that are residents. We have all the residents in the house. After 6 months, after they've been through the life management program, saved their money, they're asked if they would stay and be a resident assistant to me. So they already know the chores. They've already been through, and they become a leader. And I work with them on leadership things, and they become part of the success. And that they've modeled that you can do this, and it's working really, really well. A good atmosphere in the home. It's not a prison. It used to be a little bit that way, had a reputation of being, we went ahead and made the tough decisions of changing help and doing what, risking, because it was hard to let go when you're comfortable with a person in position. But now there's a dignified environment where men feel like they're treated in a dignified way by me and the assistants. So it's, we're moving, we need to get in a dignified home. And that's what we're working on.
Have you identified a place? Do you have potential places?
Yeah, we
that you
do.
live
We
around?
do. I don't know how viable it really is going to be, but we're working on some. We have somebody that wanted to help us and purchase a piece of property, but I don't know how.
Particularly
it's gonna
town
work.
zoning, finding a place that fits in with the community, and that's one of the tougher
That's the
things.
tough part.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know my organization, or the church that I go to, works with your group, and I have never went there without something, and I have never had men not come out to the car to help me bring in whatever it was. And they were always nice. We took it in, took stuff in. The place is always clean, and it makes us feel like we want to do more, because I've heard the words, "Can we do more?" And the answer is always yes. So I appreciate it, and thank you for your time. I mean, we got a whole bunch of people that we got to talk to. We could talk about it for a long time.
Let me know, in about 2 months, we'll be hiring for seasonal folks this year. If you've got maybe folks that could do mowing or even labor work,
Okay.
we've got different positions that we'll be hiring for part-time. To get them for part-time, it's something full-time opens up, but it's a good opportunity. But I realize that's not for everybody. You gotta look at their physically what they can
Right.
do.
Right.
But even driving a mower, weed eating, those types of things, and jobs over park maintenance is not far away, so
Right, they can get there
easily
easily,
can
yeah.
handle that. So please let me know if you've got somebody who might fit that bill, and we'll try to
Okay.
line them up.
And we have some men that end up working 2 part-time jobs, and when they see their money starting to grow, they get so excited. And they never thought they can have that much money in the bank at one time. It's just an exciting thing.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I may
Appreciate
come
it,
see you.
Is it Concern next?
No,
Oh, okay.
Friends, Shenandoah.
You got me. I'll be back.
You gotta stay.
You gotta stay.
I know, she's got a couple of different
Hello.
ones. Yeah.
Oh, Karen's Slater.
Goodness.
We good? All right, I'm going to shift you to this side. This is my first time to present, but we have been community members for a long time. So my name is Karen Anderson. I'm the Laboratory and Program Director for the Friends of the Shenandoah River. There we go. The Friends of the Shenandoah River was formed here in Warren County. The gentleman up here is Merle Christensen, and this is Don Orr. Some of you may know their names. They were some of the original founders of the organization. Bud Nagelvort and Fran Endicott joined soon thereafter. The organization gathered one weekend, or the concerned citizens gathered one weekend. Over 300 attended the initial meeting, and out of concern about threats to the Shenandoah River, Avtex being one of those at that time in 1989, and just the growing population, the loss of natural habitat and runoff that was being seen in the Shenandoah River in the forms of mud and sediment. So the organization was formed. At that time, there was over 100 members and volunteers. As I mentioned, we've been a community member in Warren County for 30 years now, providing water quality monitoring of the Shenandoah River and its tributaries that flow through and in Warren County and throughout the Shenandoah River Valley. This map is just a clippet of some of the sites that have been and are continued to be monitored in Warren County. This doesn't have all of them, that's all I could fit on this clip. This is our lab up at Shenandoah University, on the campus of Shenandoah University. They provide us the space. All the instrumentation that you see in this image belongs to and is owned by the Friends of Shenandoah River. We do a suite of parameters that we test for. Those include ammonia, orthophosphate, nitrite, nitrate, pH, dissolved oxygen, turbidity, and conductivity. In 2017, an organization called the Environmental Integrity Project released a report. This report was picked up by nationwide by radio and television and other media forms. In the report, it stated that the Shenandoah River at times had E. coli levels 100 times exceedance of state standard, and that there is no government agency that is responsible for reporting this to those people that use the river. The Friends of the Shenandoah River decided to step up and provide this monitoring of E. coli, measuring of E. coli levels at public recreational sites. E. coli itself is not necessarily harmful. There are certain forms of E. coli that are, but it's a relatively inexpensive test to test for the presence of other harmful pathogens. As E. coli levels increase, so does the presence of other harmful pathogens. In 2018, we expanded our E. coli monitoring program to 6 sites here in Warren County. One of the sites is on the main stem at Morgan's Ford along the bank. This is where you see a lot of children playing in the water, right there by the boat ramp and up into Manassas Run. I'll show you some data in just a moment, but we were finding very high E. coli levels here. So I added 2 additional sites. One midstream there, right off the bridge. Normally I walk in, but this was high flow, so I leaned off the bridge and collect a sample. We also added a site on Manassas Run to see if we could identify where those high E. coli levels I was seeing along the bank. The other 3 sites, South Fork at Front Royal Public Boat Launch, South Fork at Indian Hollow, and South Fork at Andy Guest State Park. These are all sites that are frequent by pretty much every time I go to the sites, except for really early in the morning, I would run into people recreating in the river. I want to remind you all about 2018, because I'm going to show you some data next. 2018, the Shenandoah Valley experienced some of the most rain in 100 years, measured rain in 100 years. And this is measured by the flow in the water. This gauge is one of the USGS gauges, and it's at Millville, where the South Fork, North Fork, and main stem all come together and run through. So extremely high waters in 2018. This is what I want to show you. This line right here is the state standard of 235 for primary recreational use. That your face might get wet, water might enter, or holes in your body. Sorry, I'm a little nervous. FW35, as you may remember, is the main stem there at Morgan's Ford along the bank. Look how many times in 2018 it exceeded the state standard. This is where children play. When I added the mid, that's the green. And then I added Manassas Run to see if I could identify where the E. coli was coming from. You'll see a better correlation this past summer. All right, so in 2018, at FW35, it exceeded the state standard. Out of 20 times collected, 65 times. I'm sorry, I should explain. From May through September, we collect samples once a week. 45 midstream, 80% on Manassas Run. The other sites, FW14 is the one there at Front Royal Public Boat Launch, and the the blue is Andy Guest State Park, and the green is Indian Hollow. Much lower E. coli traveling in this area of the river. Here are the percentage that these sites exceeded the state standard in 2018. Now I'd like to look at this past summer, kind of flip. This past summer, after June, we experienced some very dry spells, very little rain amount. This brown line is the median daily flow in the Shenandoah River at Millville from 105 years. This is how many times we came close and even went below in September. This is where you can see the correlation between Manassas Run and the shoreline of the Shenandoah River there at Morgan's Ford. Morgan's Ford is blue and Manassas is red. It's almost identical. So when there's high flow coming out of Manassas Run, right above there where the boat launch is on the Shenandoah main stem, where children are playing, you see extremely high E. coli counts. Mid is green. That's just a little, from here, from this wall to that wall, difference. Along the bank and midstream, mid-river there. Again, highlighting the percentages. This was 22 samples last summer. This is the Front Royal Boat Launch, Antigua State Park, in Indian Hollow. The percentage of these, a lot lower. South Fork tends to run a lot lower for E. coli. This data was posted within 24 hours of reading the results on our website and on our Facebook page. I just want to show you a quick clip just so you know that our Facebook page is looked at. This one reporting that I posted reached 45,000 people, 7,000 reactions to it, and then 34 comments and 410 shares. People are looking at this information. I wanted to point this one out. This one had over 2,000 people reached, and we even had a question. What's going on in Manassas Run? Is there any corrective measures being taken to fix this? One of the other things we do is we provide educational opportunities. This is a student here from Warren County. Her name's Natalie. I trained her and taught her how to do an E. coli study. She lives very close to Manassas Run. And so she was doing a small segment of Manassas Run, a little study. And in her study, she found an area with extremely high E. coli. Her and her mom called the health department. The health department came out. They found a straight pipe. They did remediation and removed the pipe. Natalie's project went on to win the local science fair. She then went on to the regional science fair where she won in her category, and she went on to compete at the state science fair. We're asking for your support to continue with our long-term routine water quality monitoring, the continuation of our summer E. coli monitoring. I'd love more discussion about possibly adding additional sites. These are some examples of sites where we're currently not monitoring E. coli in Warren County, and to perform targeted testing on Manassas Run to isolate and remediate where that E. coli is coming from. Manassas Run, Doug has shared some information with me about some plans and growth coming to Manassas Run. So that's one of the things that we would really like to target this next year. Oh, sorry, I didn't know I put that in there. Thank you. Oh my goodness. Thank you very much. And if you have any questions or concerns, please contact me.
I appreciate it.
Karen, can you DNA type E. coli to see if it's coming from
You
animal
can.
or human?
You can.
We obviously have a lot of
expensive.
drain fields off of that.
Well, that's what I was
Stream.
wondering, and we
And
dump,
that's-
don't we? Even people dump into the river?
Yes, yes, yes. There are.
But if it's livestock,
can
you'll find
do-
out if
it's-
you can
You
check.
you can do source tracking, absolutely.
Yeah.
It is very expensive. It's $300 to $500 per sample.
Wow.
One of the other things that you can do is you can test for the presence of caffeine. That is kind of just a really dirty test to see, is there heavy markings of caffeine presence? You can, is it low amount or a high signature of caffeine?
What does that indicate?
It let you know if it's septic or weight, from somebody's
Wastewater? Okay.
Human wastewater versus agricultural or livestock wastewater.
Interesting. I didn't
It
know
can be a
it's
combination easily thereof. So, without doing the DNA source tracking, you can't. But my suggestion, I'm sorry, I'm talking fast so I don't run out of time. My suggestion would be to take a map and look at Manassas Run and break it down into segments and see if we, without having to do the source tracking, can you narrow down specifically, and say, okay, look folks, here it is below your farm, here it is above your area, farm, house.
If you went back
this
a
is
mile, you would knock out most of the agriculture. Most of that livestock
Right.
is in that first
Right,
mile
that
above
first
the
mile.
landing.
Right.
If indeed that is the whole what's contributing to the E.
How far
coli
up
we're
is it
seeing.
been?
I'm
Do
sorry.
you need people to go further up?
Well, I guess what I'm saying is most of the livestock is in that
I
first
know
mile.
that,
If
yeah.
you keep going up, there's all those subdivisions drain to the Linden area.
Right.
It's more than likely human if you
Yeah.
get past that
And
area.
that's where Natalie's project was. Natalie's project was up off of, by Linden and on Manassas Run. And she found, in her short little 6 weeks, she found a straight pipe. So they still do exist.
What kind of pipe was it?
It's called a straight pipe. It's when your
Sewage goes straight
sewage
through.
I know
is-
exactly.
yeah.
We've talked about that.
Yeah, it goes directly into and dispersed into a
We
stream.
had one of those in back of
Thank
my
you
house.
for this opportunity.
Thank you. It's nice to meet you, Karen.
Oh, thank you. Hey Doug, I'm just gonna, can you pop?
Yep, I'll take
Okay,
care of it.
Thank you. You guys just like to see how fast you can make us talk.
You did really
You
well.
remember the micro
Great
machine?
presentation.
I always
Yeah,
feel
a
like
little bit of time.
the guy that did the micro machine ad and he talked real fast. Come on, you guys gotta remember micro machines. And he talked real fast.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
I'm gonna let Rusty do all the talking at this time.
She's the woman of many hats here this evening. Hi, my name is Rusty Holland. I'm the Executive Director at Concern Hotline. And we have been in existence since 1968. And in 1968, we kind of formed a partnership with Warren County because we came into existence because the Northern Shenandoah Valley had the highest suicide rate per capita on the East Coast. And people were going over here to Dickey Ridge and jumping off. And one of the local psychiatrists in Winchester decided that they needed to do something. So in 1968, a small group of people got together and began this hotline service. It actually ran out of the George Washington Hotel's switchboard when it first started. Fast forward, 1979, we signed an agreement with what was then Winchester Psychiatric, which became Northwestern Community Services. Northwestern Community Services and Concern have contracted services since 1979. We answer the phone for Northwestern 24 hours a day. They have a staff meeting, we answer their phone. They have somebody out sick, we might answer their phone. But we like to say we provide bridge services for clients. If you have an appointment today and your next appointment isn't for a month, for that 30-day period, what are you going to do if you're struggling with your mental health? You're going to call Concern Hotline. And Concern Hotline provides what we call compassionate listening. We like to say we do something different than anyone else does. We listen. We train our listeners in active listening, so we don't just give advice. That's something we don't do. We listen and try to help problem solve with our callers so they can empower them to make better decisions. Our call logs, call volumes are down simply because, a couple of reasons. Number one, everybody Googles everything, and we used to do information and referral. We had 8,000 phone calls a year, and we were referring people all over the place. I brought some information. We've produced the source book, which has over 250 regional agencies in it. We give this to all of our listeners, and we give these out to anybody for free once we have them printed. And we're getting ready to do, this is 2018, we're getting ready to do 2020 here right now. We're working on it. So we give out these source books to try to get people to where they need to be. But because everybody has a hotline, I mean, you can call a hotline for your Thanksgiving turkey. So you can always get an answer on a hotline now. So ours has become more specialized. Our calls are more mental health related. I like to say that every call we get is a potential suicide call, because we're dealing with people who are dealing with such things as substance abuse, domestic violence, homelessness, and my own personal feeling is that one of the main reasons people call is because of isolation and loneliness. People feel it, you know, I went and did a presentation, somebody said, well, I like to be alone. That gives me, solitude is a wonderful thing. And I said, but that's a choice. Have you ever been in a room full of people and felt alone? You know, that's what isolation is. It can be perceived. And I think a lot of our callers just feel alone and detached from other resources and from other parts of the community that they feel they need. Last year, about 22% of our phone calls came from Warren County, or at least logged from Warren County. Because of the cell phone and because so many people were anonymous, confidential, and free, don't want to give out the information of where they're calling from, we log our phone calls. 22% of our calls were actually logged as Warren County calls. Out of those, about 10% there were over 50 what we registered as suicide calls on our log, and 3 of them resulted in emergency services being sent out and people being taken to the hospital. We don't do follow-up. We don't make phone calls, we receive phone calls. So once we pass off to emergency services, we don't know what happened. I will say that 2 years ago, I had a suicide call from Warren County, and the officers came through the front door after the gentleman put his phone down. The gentleman put his gun down, and the officers came to the door, knocked on the door. I could hear them knocking on the door. He opened the door, I heard the conversation, and 2 minutes later the officer called and said, thank you, we got there, he's safe, the gun's down, and we're taking him to the hospital. He was a 57-year-old gentleman with early onset Alzheimer's. So I tell you the rest of the story, but it's a little close to home. So all I know is that we had a successful intervention, and that's what we want to continue to provide for Warren County, our successful interventions, whether it's making someone feel alive or whether it's making someone feel like they have someone who cares. Our logo was Call Us We Care. You know, we're there 24 hours a day. You know, who answers the phone? Right now we have I think we have 42 volunteers today that answer the phone 24 hours a day in 4-hour shifts. They are trained by, right now we're being trained by the head of the psychology department at Shenandoah University, who also serves on our board, Dr. Rodney Bragdon, who is streamlining our training. It's become so much cleaner and more professional, and is actually something that we might even think about producing on a level for social enterprise, because it's such a good training for active listening. The volunteers are trained approximately 20 hours before they get on the hotline, and then we ask them to serve 16 hours a month. So you can serve right from your home, you can serve from your cell phone. All the calls are sent right to wherever number that you want to give us. So it's easy to volunteer. It's very rewarding because we save lives every day. It's tied into other community agencies. I mean, DSS here, and the ongoing partnerships with our training and people that are in our source book. We continue to try to provide partnerships with all of these agencies. We just partnered with the Rotary in Winchester on rebuilding our source book online, so it'll be a much more streamlined piece of equipment for us on the internet. And we're trying to get away from printing this because, of course, it's an expense for us to print these. And everybody says, why don't you just do it online? But I've run into so many people, especially guidance counselors or nurse practitioners, that really like to have this on their desk so they can look through it and give information.
And we'll also provide training, like the assist
Yeah.
training and safe talk training
One-
to or other organizations.
Laurel and Hardy. So one of the other things that we try to do is, and one of the new initiatives we've done in the last 3 years, is that we've started offering assist trainings in the communities we serve. Assist stands for Applied Suicide Intervention Skills Training. It's the most widely recognized across the globe intervention for face-to-face suicide intervention. Can train 30 at a time. We partner with the campus suicide prevention project out of JMU. We are offering one in March 9th and 10th at Lord Fairfax, where Warren County residents have access to those trainings. We're also in communication with Warren County schools to provide what we also call safe talk trainings, which is kind of like a primer for how do you recognize what we call invitations to suicide. You know, after somebody commits suicide, everybody always says, well, I never would have thought that they seem so happy. Well, they might have seemed happy, but at some point they were giving out what we call invitations. And so these trainings teach people to recognize those invitations and pass those people off to someone who really knows how to intervene. I'm a trained intervener. I've done several face-to-face interventions. It is successful. We feel very strongly about it. And our partnerships there are fantastic. Working with the Suicide Prevention Project out of JMU has given us a whole new plethora of connections and information and training opportunities. It's just been amazing. So the one thing I've always said here in Warren County, I do a lot of jurisdictional grants and I do these meetings on a yearly basis. Warren County was the one community that has continued to step up every year to support their residents. And when I go out and when I talk to other jurisdictions, I use Warren County as the bellwether for this is a county that's continued to support us all these years. So that's my little cheerleader speech. You know, Warren County is definitely someone who I feel has stepped up and supported their people when they needed to. So I'd be happy to answer any questions if you have.
My granny actually was one of your listeners.
Oh, really?
Yes.
We've had several executive directors. I actually came on board. I was the president of the board, and our executive director had a nervous breakdown. And they asked me to step in, and I was a therapist. And I got so involved in the mission. My mother was actually one of the people that helped found Concern Hotline. So I remember it as a child. So when I got back involved with it, the mission kind of engulfed me. And here, careful what you wish for. I've been here now, this is my 6 years executive director, but I've been involved for over 20 years, so that doesn't count my childhood stuff. But if you know any other grannies that want to listen, I'd love to talk to them. We're always recruiting.
Well, thank you so much for coming. I mean, I'm not trying to rush you out, but we're on the time limit for everything.
I didn't mean to talk as much as
No, we're
told Michelle to kick me if I talk too long.
No, it's
Your leg's black and blue.
It is. Sore rib. I did bring some information. These cards are valuable.
Yes.
I'm going to leave them here for you. And as always, you have Michelle to get more.
We get those too?
You can have anything you want.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Actually gave some.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you all very much for your time and what you do for your county. Thank you.